Salutations readers, welcome back to the City Girl Writer channel. My name is Nkechi, and for today I'm going to talk about all the books that I DNF'd in the months of January, February, and March 2024. So I was inspired to create a video like this thanks to Heather from here booktube. She does quarterly DNF wrap-up videos, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. I mean, I did a big 2023 wrap-up video, and I talked about a lot of books that I DNF'd last year. I ain't doing that no more, so I was like, nope, I'm gonna do it like Heather does, and it's quarterly, and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, in the past 3 months, I DNF'd 10 books. So it's kind of a mixture of like new releases and other things and stuff. So I'm also organizing the DNFs the way that I did my big giant DNF wrap-up video. So we're gonna have the Saved by the DNF or Public Enemy #1, Ain't Never Gonna Read Again, but Never Say Never, and Wrong Book, Wrong Time. That's how we're gonna organize all these DNFs. And it's only 10 books to really talk about, so yeah. Now as far as anything else to know about these DNFs, 3 of these DNFs are actually series DNFs, so I'm not gonna continue on with this series at all, or I'm not gonna bother with this series at all. And as far as the number of new releases and arcs, because I did DNF arcs, and there were 4. So I'm not happy about that. Nearly half of the DNFs were new releases. So, yeah, not really happy about that at all. But anyways, let's just get on to the books that I DNF'd. So we're gonna start with the Saved by the DNF. So first up is, unfortunately, an E-arc, Infinity Alchemist by Case and Calendar. This was Case and Calendar's, I think, young adult fantasy debut, and I did not really like this one, y'all. Okay, hold up now. Before I continue on, I need to charge this camera. Hold up 1 minute. Okay, we're back. Okay, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Infinity Alchemist. So, yeah, I didn't really like this one. I think I DNF'd it around 21%, something like that. I remember not liking it because of the main character. What was his name? Ash? I think his name was Ash. I really could not bother with the kind of character he is, and also I wasn't really intrigued with the fantasy world either. I don't think the world was that well built. I think Case and Calendar is just stronger as a contemporary writer than like fantasy, honestly. I didn't really like the fantasy here, so yeah, unfortunately, and I definitely don't think I'm gonna come back to this one at all. I just could not stand it. And the next book I DNF was also another arc. I also DNF'd this one in January, and that was Chrysalis and Requiem by Quentin Lee. This is a self-published book. I think this was like a new adult fantasy, speculative fiction thriller, I think. It's also dark academic as well, and also queer, which has a lot of buzzwords and stuff that I'm like, actually I'm pretty interested in, or I really like. But really the problem with this one was the writing. I could not stand the writing in this one. I don't know if it was just not well edited, or this just the style of the author, but I really did not like the writing. In fact, I DNF'd it at 10%. I just could not stand it. And then the characters, they were not intriguing enough for me to bother. I knew this would be more of like a obsession kind of story, but I really quickly realized that obsession stories just don't really work for me. I do not care. I could not care about the fact that this main character was obsessed with this other character. I don't care, and I was not intrigued enough to continue on to know more. I was like, you know what, I'm bored and confused, and the world doesn't make no sense, and I did not like the writing, so I had to put it down. And then the next book that I DNF'd, I think I DNF'd this one in February? Yeah. It was in my, I've DNF'd this other book in February. It's called The Grim Reaper's Lawyer by Mia Monique. I didn't particularly really like this one. It was recommended to me by a friend, but to be quite honest, I wasn't quite a fan of the style. I thought the style was light enough and funny, but then it kind of got to the line of like, okay, I'm kind of getting bored here. And not much about the main character really intrigued me to continue on. It's also supposed to be a first book in a series. It's like a fantasy romance thing where like the main character's a lawyer, but then she got murdered by her client and has to represent the Grim Reaper, which I'm like, okay, that sounds cool as a concept, but honestly I was not really that intrigued with the world of this afterlife. That actually bored me, and also I'm just like, I'm not intrigued. I don't remember how far I got into it, but I think I got about 50-something, 60-something pages, and I was like, I don't care for it. So, yeah, that's that book. And then this other book here was actually a book that I saw, like, on Bookstagram, I was kind of thinking like, you know, maybe I would like this one, only for me to be like, actually, nah. And that is A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy. I saw this one as kind of like a book recommendation post for like Black Fae, since it did feature Fae characters written by a Black author and it's traditionally published. So I was like, okay, cool, let me try this one. Only for me to be like, actually, I didn't really like this one. It's a young adult fantasy. It's giving very typical young adult fantasy, and I'm like, I am not here to read a mediocre young adult fantasy book. I was not here for it. I wanted to read something else, so I was like, nah, I'm putting this down. I'm not even gonna like this anyways. Why am I bothering? So that's the Saved by the DNF. So now we're in the ain't touching again, but never say never. So these are the kind of books I'm like, you know what? I think this would be a solid DNF, but I won't be surprised if I come back to it in a year or two. So first up in the docket is Blood Like Magic by Liselle Sambury. This is Liselle Sambury's debut novel, and I've literally tried to read this book twice. Specifically via audio. I think I tried to read it the first time 2 years ago, and I tried again this year for around Blackathon, and I got further the second time, but I still couldn't get far enough, honestly. I don't think it's bad or anything, but I have really had a hard time really sticking with the main character, and I don't know if I can try this again with my eyeballs. Maybe my reading with my eyes would be better experience for me than the audiobook. I'm not really sure, so I might try it again, but it'll have to be with my eyeballs. So I either have to borrow the physical or an ebook. But then that'll be it. If I still can't get through it in the format, it is what it is. I just can't bother. Next up is David Mongol God Hunter by Suyi Davis Okumbowa. I think this is Suyi Davis Okumbowa's debut novel. And I did DNF it after like the first, I don't know if it was the second. Did I get to the second chapter? I don't remember how far I got into this one. But I did DNF it pretty quickly. And I do think that like I was just not really in the mood for it. I don't think it's really a wrong book, wrong time though. Because I didn't particularly like it's not really like writing style, but it's more of like the way that it was kind of like first person narration. I didn't really care for it in first person. I think it's in first person present tense as well, which is really irritating for me. I don't like that, genuinely. So if I were to try this again, I don't know. I need to be in a mood for like a first person present tense narration style. If not, I'm not coming back to it. But I really was intrigued though with the premise and the idea of this being Nigerian god punk. Since we're dealing with gods in this world, I find that to be so fascinating. But I have not been able to even find an audiobook, and I don't know if the audiobook just doesn't exist, or my library just does not have an audiobook copy. I want to try again, but we shall see. I don't know. I might not come back to it, though. And then this next book here, I did try to read. It's actually a new release. It came out in January. It's called The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. It's an adult contemporary fantasy novel. It's also a debut, I think. And it's been compared to like Aaron Morgenstern, Laini Taylor's writing, something like that. So like Strange the Dreamer, Starless Sea. And I've read a solid chunk enough of it to be like, okay, it's not quite like that, honestly. It's not as whimsical or as poetic or flowery like those authors' works. Granted, I've only read all of Aaron Morgenstern's works, not all of Laini Taylor's, but like it's pretty comparable at least. But something about The City of Stardust that like, sure, the world intrigued me. Especially being contemporary fantasy, which usually does not work for me. I did actually like the contemporary fantasy world enough. I think my problem was really the characters. I was kind of just like, I don't know how I feel about these characters, y'all. I don't know. I might try this one again, but like, I needed some time away from it, honestly, to try it again. It sounded intriguing. I do want to give this one a shot, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try it via audio, though. I think that's more of an audiobook read than reading with my eyeballs, because I did read it with an ebook. I think the audiobook might be a better bet for me, though. And then the last book for this category is actually a book I recently talked about in my March wrap-up, and it's The Last Fly Hunter by Celine Goldenberg. I already talked pretty much in depth as far as why I didn't have that book, so I will link the wrap-up video down below, but just a Cliff Note version of it is that formatting of the e-arc was not really the best as an e-arc. The book actually officially comes out April 9th, so if y'all read it, I recommend at least giving it a shot. And I'm not totally sure if I'll give this, I don't know if I'll give this particular book a shot again, but I was not fully here for like the characters, honestly. The world was still interesting, but I was really getting into a reading slump with that book, so I really had to put it down. Maybe I'll try it again with a finished copy, whether it's the audiobook or a physical or something. Maybe an audiobook, actually. I kind of want to try the audiobook out. But I had to put the book down. I was in a reading. That book was literally putting me into a reading slump. I had to put it down. And then last, but certainly not least, we have the final category, wrong book, wrong time. These are pretty much my soft DNFs, my pauses, I'm going to come back to it. We'll see when, but I'm definitely going to come back to it. For these two books in this category, and it makes sense. So the first book here is The Reformatory by Reading. I soft DNF'd it, I think, physically. Yeah, I soft DNF'd it physically, so I remember borrowing the physical book from my library in January. And I had to put it down because I was not in the headspace to read it at the time. And also, I didn't want to pressure myself to finish it before my library book hold. And it's fine because actually I'm now currently reading The Reformatory via audio. So I got a copy from Libro FM, so I'm currently reading via audio anyway, so like I'm fine there at least. Wrong book, wrong time for sure. And I'm definitely having a better time with it now. I'm not reading much of it, but I'm having a better time with it now than I did before. And I think that's just what I really needed. I needed a different time to do it and read it at my own pace, especially the content of the book required me to go on my own pace. And this last one here is actually a book that I recently bought physically, and that is Enter Ghost by Isabella Hamad. So I initially tried to read this via audio. I think it was also in January, or was it February? I can't remember when I soft DNF'd the audiobook. But I knew that I really wanted to give this book another shot. I thought it'd be via audio, but honestly, I think I really want to read with my eyeballs, so I purchased a physical copy instead. I really like the writing. I was really intrigued with the main characters, since it's like historical, or no, not historical. No, actually, no, it's contemporary fiction, my bad. Contemporary lit fic, and I was really interested in this one, especially since this is written by a Palestinian American author, so I really want to give this one a second shot. So, yeah, and now I have a physical copy, so I'm definitely going to try this for sure in the future. Don't know when, but I will. So it's definitely at least on the docket, hence physical copy. But yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. That's all the books that I've DNF'd so far this year. So yeah, I've read 22 books. I DNF'd 10. That's not bad numbers, honestly, for me. But it's not really as good either as far as with the quality of books I've been reading lately. But for the most part, I mean, it's solid. At least I have a couple books I'm like, I'm going to come back to. And so far my arc reading game is as well, since I'm reading them, but also not well, since I'm DNFing a few of them. So we shall see how it goes in the next quarter. I'm hoping for April, May, and June. Maybe not so many DNFs already so early in the year, maybe? We shall see. We shall see how April, May, and June treat me, but I'm hoping for the best. But anyways, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for y'all. What are some books that y'all have DNF'd so far this year? Are there any books that y'all think that you will not come back to? Like, these is like the Saved by the DNF or would have been Public Enemy #1 kind of books? Or do you have like a wrong book, wrong time kind of books? I don't know. I'm curious about the books that y'all have DNF'd. And if you made it this far into the video and you want to leave me an emoji because you don't have much else to say, just leave me the X emoji down below. That's it. Just like this. Or the person with the X like this. Anyways, thank you all for coming on to this video, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye.